All right, everybody, we are back. Sorry, we've been kind of spotty over the summer. School is back today, as you can tell by my shirt. First day of school for the kids today. So hopefully our schedule will be getting back to a little bit more normal. But today we're here with Andrew. Is it Richard or
Richard?
Okay,
yep, absolutely.
Andrew Richard, president and co-founder of Automated Rig Technologies up in Canada. Appreciate you being here. And we're also here today with Ronald Townsend, the president of the U.S. entity, which is called Automated Completion Technologies. Thanks for coming in today, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot for having us, John.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you guys just because of kind of the background that I've had, and Bob, as everyone can tell, Bobby's not here. He's got a meeting today, so he's going through all the fun of the merger and acquisition with the Devon stuff today. But when Bobby and I worked together, we did a lot of work on the kind of field hardware edge side of things. And so I think it'll be an interesting instrumentation and that sort of thing. It'll be an interesting conversation. Anyway, but today's story, as I kind of preface you guys on, is I normally go on Perplexity once or twice a week and just click on Discover and scroll through their news stories to see what was on there. And one of them was Kroger is testing dynamic pricing online. And in the article, the reason I even bring this story up is because they had an acronym called Enhanced Display for Grocery Environment, and then they put Edge out to the side of it. And I thought that was a nice little nod to the edge computing and stuff. But they're looking at dynamic pricing. They're looking at putting cameras and stuff at the checkout and throughout the store, I guess. That can do age and gender recognition. They're just trying to collect as much data on people as possible at the edge. And so I thought that would be an interesting story for what to kind of transition with you guys, because you guys do a ton of hardware enablement and automation essentially at the edge, right? So with that, let's kind of get into what you guys do just a little bit, so that we can kind of tie this back in. But what is Automated Rig and Automated Completion Technologies? What do you guys do?
We do a wide breadth of solutions, or we offer a wide breadth of solutions to the industry. But where we've been narrowing down over the last year or two really is commercializing technologies after the drill bit leaves. Our history is a lot of drilling type work. But now we're getting involved heavily and bringing automation and optimization to the well completions and the well service and the P&A side with some new technologies that we've got. Which is like,
in my opinion, at least the well servicing workover side is just so ripe for disruption, right? It's I mean, we've got automated drilling rigs. We're working on trying to automate frac. And then it's like, oh yeah, we still have this well that we have to service or we have to drill out. And we still do it with a workover rig in
1950 technology.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all, still got analog gauges. Half of them still have analog instrumentation. But then it's like, when Bobby and I worked together at RDS, one of the things that one of our customers had brought to us and was like, hey, we spend all this money doing drill outs, and it's, we tend to go in their basin, wherever it was, workovers was cheaper than coil. And so they were using workovers, and they were like, but if we get stuck, we have no way of knowing who was the cause or what caused it. I was like, are you like, there's no instrumentation? Yeah. Like, no, it's all digital, and they just write it on a, piece of paper, and that's the log basically. And I'm like, that's wild. So we started working on some just monitoring stuff, right? Yeah. Pressures, rates, forces and torque and all that fun stuff. But it's one of those things where it's like, why hasn't someone done this? Because we have the components of it all exist, generally speaking, in some instances, at least on the monitoring, the sensor side, of being able to monitor this stuff. And they exist in the drilling and completion side, but no one has brought it there. So I'm really excited to kind of unpack what you guys have done.
I've got a lot of thoughts about.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts.
Let's get into kind of like the evolution of it, right? Like, so you mentioned, right, workover rigs around in the 50s, generally speaking. I mean, they're, not to make it sound overly simple, but they're not like it's not the craziest thing that you're doing in the oil field by any means, right? You're doing a lot of repetitive stuff essentially, but there hasn't been any real change in it at least to my knowledge, in decades.
Yes. And even a snubbing in the snubbing space, it's even goes back further than that. I mean, it's World War II technology. That's how old this stuff is. It's just 4 cylinders, and that's about it. And so we saw this coming, and we've kind of been trying to get some buy-in. Service companies, they're low budget, no money, no CapEx.
We're the stepchild of the oil
field
field
of the industry.
Yeah.
But we're seeing the change at the operators table now. Basically, that's why we're here in Houston this week. They've asked us to come talk to them, explain to them what we're doing, and they're talking ergonomics of the operator. Why do we have a driller in a cyber chair, yet the operator on the workover rig standing out in the 105-degree weather
under an umbrella?
Right. At least he's got an umbrella,
Yeah.
And so that's the how far apart we are. But they see now, at least a couple of the guys see that it's not right, and nobody wants to do that work.
Right.
And so it's taken the fact that we're running out of people to do the work, the physical work, because history says they just throw more people at it.
Right.
We don't need a machine. We don't need to think. We just send more dumb roughnecks out there, and they'll get the job done. And so, I'm not talking about little operators. I'm talking major operators have had that mentality today, but we're seeing that transition. Yesterday we met, and they're talking. We need to get the operator in the cyber chair. We need to get the derrick out of the derrick.
Right.
They're mashing fingers. They're twisting arms still.
I think that's the weird dichotomy, right, with technology in the oil field, is that one, technology enables a lot more safety. It enables a lot more accuracy, a lot more control. But the flip side of that is then it's like, okay, well, you also don't want to displace the people that are doing that work, because most of them are, just good people trying to make a living. And so but at the same time, it's like, I think normally that's a much longer time period where you go from like a new technology to completely replacing people in the field, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people jump to that conclusion, but most of these things are very step change or like incremental over time. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's not replacing the person. It's just allowing them to do what they're good at, and not these mundane or very unsafe kind of things that cause all these issues. Right. And so I love technology as an enablement of the safety element, specifically in the oil field, because it is, people, I was walking around 15,000 K iron in the Haynesville, not thinking twice about the fact that, we're pumping 12,000 PSI and pinhole leak on any of this iron. And it's cutting everything in front of it in half,
including you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's such a weird thing, because everything seems so normalized when you're in the field, but then you step back and you're like, oh shit, that was really sketchy at one point.
And the workforce, another thing we've got coming at us is the workforce is changing.
Yep.
Right. Most of my generation, we had a farm connection somewhere, and work, bale hay in the summer and for a penny a bale or whatever it was. And we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
The young folks, and good for them, they're on their games, and so we've got to go to them.
Yeah.
We've got to make an appealing place to work. You can make a good living in the oil field, but they're not going to do the work we did.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But we've been waiting. The industry's been waiting on the operators to get there, and they're getting there.
Yeah, I think we're
going to see a change
with anything. It always has to ultimately come down from the operator,
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you can have the coolest new tech on the service side, but if the operator doesn't see the value that you're trying to convey in it, it's not going to.
Yeah, and even internally, inside the operator, we're seeing a discussion about how do we get this done from a financial standpoint, because, corporate has a operating budget, and we need to stay within an operating budget, but all this R&D takes time, it takes money, and the operating budget guys that are controlling, they say, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
Corporate,
it's always lower prices, not higher prices.
Yeah. So if we're going to do this, you got to get up off some of that R&D money and give us some R&D money, because we're not, we got our budget set. Because what you start doing is taking wells away if we start monkeying around trying to get new technology implemented. And so it's not a struggle, but it's a discussion around how do we pay for this?
No, for sure.
And not penalize the field guys.
Yeah. No, that's there's a few companies, and I'll throw them out there, like EQT, Devon. There's companies like that exist that have, in my opinion, done it very well, where they have a separate entity with a separate budget that is focused specifically on introducing and testing new technologies. Yep. And I bring this up because I genuinely think, and I'll look at the camera, operators that aren't doing it this way are hurting the industry, and you're hurting yourselves, in all honesty. Because if I'm a completions engineer and my annual bonuses are tied to coming in under budget and the number of wells I complete, I am not going to remotely entertain trying something that will either increase my budget or slow that down.
Yeah.
And so those incentives aren't aligned. Yeah. And this is, I've seen this throughout the years, even just across departments, right? Like the completion engineer is focused on budget and the number of wells, right? It's all AFE and number of wells. Well, then the reservoir engineer over the exact same field is focused on the production and the reserves and the recovery. Yes. And he wants to do some tests to figure out what that's going to look like, but that's going to cost money and time. And so now their incentives aren't aligned. So how are you supposed to optimize your assets if you have people that are working on the same asset that aren't aligned in the same direction? Yeah. And so I agree with you, though. It has to come from the operator, because the service guys, and I'll go on a rant because I've worked in the service industry most of my career, but like the service industry is, again, the stepchild of the oil field, and we get blamed for everything. And it's like, okay, well, if prices are too low, then we have to cut our prices. Yeah. And then half of the service companies go bankrupt, then prices go back up, then they bitch about pricing going back up. But then when it goes back up, all that's left is the majors that you were mad about having high prices to begin with. And you just go through this cycle all over again. And there's got to be a better way to do that. And hopefully these relationships keep building where it's more collaborative and not so like just strictly supply chain. Here's the RFP. Don't talk to anybody, and then we'll just get the bid and we'll go with the lowest price, right? Like,
and another thing that we're hearing the drums are beating on, which is a huge step change. They're talking about term contracts for their service rigs.
Absolutely, yeah. That's
not call out basis. Right. Your first call, you're all this noise, which means nothing. But they're talking about a 3 to 5 year commitment. And so that changes the whole dynamics as well. If you have a long-term relationship and it's papered, then you can afford to pay a little more maybe, or you can afford to take a little risk on change.
That's the thing. It's just, I mean, even just like on the service side, just like the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're not a required service per se, where you're on a call out basis. I experienced that firsthand at RDS because we were doing gauges, right? So it's not like every company doesn't need a gauge on every well, right? And in most cases, they're only doing gauges on tests or wells that they're testing specifically. So it's a very you don't really know. It's very hard to forecast from a sales perspective when you're doing that kind of stuff. But if you can implement more of a term where it's like an annual or multi-year thing, then that brings stability to the service company. So guess what? They can hire, they can provide better service.
Absolutely.
They can do R&D. And that's the crazy part that, I mean, there are so many services still that are just pure call out based off, who the company man even is, right?
Absolutely.
100%. And just sort of to take one step back from what Ron's explaining, what's the conversation is happening now is, and what we've seen is, because of the dynamics in the industry and because of the incentives that you're talking about, et cetera, it seems to be that the service companies on the well servicing side or workover side have implemented very minor changes, and they're doing very small step changes to get to what they believe what they perceive as being a solution. But the reality that ends up becoming very apparent is that there's always these unintended consequences of automation. So you look at a workover rig or a service rig today, or a snubbing jack, and you look at what a person does on that. And so people will tend to go, oh, we swing the tong in. Well, let's bring a tong in. Well, who's going to dope the pipe? Who's going to kick the pipe? Who's going to pull it up? So then you start running all these back, and that is not necessarily the best way to approach it. We were talking about this last night. Our VP of engineering, Harold Miller, is also our COO, has a perfect analogy for this. It's like you and I are sitting we're dishwashers at a restaurant. So we're in line, and I grab a dish and I scrub that dish and I hand it to you, and you rinse the dish and then you put it in the drying rack. Or you invent a dishwasher, you put everything in the dishwasher and you run from a blank piece of paper, a whole different process. Right. And the way that it sort of seems the market is going down this path is they're going to the dollar store and they're buying a handle that has the soap in it with this, and they're washing the dish because that's the next step of automation. Right. Instead, we need to go to the dishwasher. Yeah. So we start with a different way of looking at it.
Blank piece of paper.
An evolutionary thing. It's if I could do this today with today's technology, knowing what I know, how would I do this? And trying to remove any of the history. And
my argument always in my head is that, like, there's a ton of software companies out there, and there's a ton of optimization softwares. And a lot of the times it seems like we're trying to bridge the gap right over to well servicing or workover without actually looking at the equipment. Right. So I don't believe that the equipment that exists in the market today is primed for automation. Yeah. Now you look at the drilling side, and the drilling side, I was talking to Tenaris a couple of months ago, and I haven't fact checked this, so someone else on the internet can, but the statement that came from one of their guys was that in 2023, and then also again in 2024, they were expecting to deliver the same amount of casing to the US that they did in 2014. But in 2014, we had 2,100 rigs running, and now we have 700 rigs running. And what was the guy the other day told us that an average rig now is expected to be drilling 26 wells a year. Wow. So if that's the case,
that's crazy.
You still have the same number of people on the rig, right? But the rig itself has become so efficient that you can do one third of the equipment with the same amount of output.
No, I think another really good analogy for this is looking at all the AI stuff, right? Like people growing up, the Jetsons, like everybody thought, AI would, or what we think AI, what we thought of or were told AI would be was, we'll have, I'll have a housekeeper that does all the dishes and cleans the house and does the laundry. And it's like, no, the first, like the creative stuff is ironically what AI has started supplanting essentially. Whereas all the blue collar stuff, it is like just the hands-on stuff. It is so much harder to automate like a lot of human movement that it really doesn't make sense to like. And so people solve for the wrong problem, right? They're looking, how do I improve a minor, a 2% thing, like putting the soap in the handle, right? Versus how do I just redesign this whole process from zero?
And that's kind of where we're at today. We're being challenged to get the blank sheet of paper out. And so that's kind of going to be hard. Yeah. And the next problem you run into, you got all this equipment. Yep. That's 1950 technology that they just bought last week. Right. And they got investors, and they've been telling the same lie for 50 years. And so you just don't go displace that stuff. They're not going to throw that in the trash can and start with a new machine. Right. It's going to take some time, the evolution. So we're almost better with a startup company who doesn't have any equipment. Right. And going fresh with somebody like that. But then you don't have the management team in
Right.
place, and you don't have this, you
The
don't
track
have that.
record.
So
Training.
track and the MSAs with the majors,
Mhm.
and so it's quite an equation to get all that rolled up into one basket.
No, for sure. Well, let's get into exactly kind of some of the stuff you guys do on the well servicing and completion side. Like, what are y'all automating? What are we going from on the
There's 3 technologies that we've got right now that are sort of leading our sales efforts or revenue. We've got a lot of existing history and equipment and solutions-based stuff, but that tends to be very specific with people that approach us about particular challenges. The 3 technologies are CD Rod Tong, and that's a circumferential displacement tong. So it correctly makes up sucker rods, but it has a data acquisition system. You run it like a casing running service, right? Then there's the other 2 are both jointed pipe injectors of sorts. One's the larger unit, and one's a smaller PTI.
Checking these out on the website before y'all got here.
So I find that when we talk to a lot of people in the industry, it always feels like a Steve Jobs conversation where it's and one more thing, because the technology is this linchpin technology that fits into existing equipment that already exists in the market, but it enables so much more, right? So you think about a coiled tubing unit injector, but this injector can inject stick pipe. So just from the surface concept there, you can go with larger diameter tubing. You can go with lower cost tubing. You don't have to worry about the cycle life of the coil. You don't have to worry about nitrogen, all the other organic chemical problems that you've got, but you can rotate. So you start thinking about, or we start thinking about these wells that are 32,000 feet and coils having a tremendous issue getting there. The rig doesn't have a problem getting there.
Right.
The rig probably can go quite a bit further if
the drilling rig,
if we wanted it to. But a lot of the stuff you're limited by the completion and the tools. So the injector enables that portion of the jointed pipe injector and the production tubing injector, which is a much smaller machine from a capacity standpoint, not necessarily physical.
Right.
And what that does is it transitions the hoisting capacity from above your head to below your feet. And as you start getting your head wrapped around that idea, what that can do then is because we've got coupling sensors on the top and bottom of the machine, we can now locate where the coupling is on the floor. So now we can bring the stump. We don't have to worry about moving the tong. The tong can just be at the position. You can bring the coupling to the tong.
Interesting.
Everything becomes very fixed. Right. There's so much enabled from this technology. You know, things like, and the one more things are like, we don't have an injector in the market right now that I'm aware of that opens to 7 1/16 or to the BOP through bore. Let's just say we have designs for much larger than 7 1/16. So the injector's there as the main tool.
So another thing, you take people out of the red zone.
Right.
You start moving this guy out, then you start moving that guy. So the PTI, there's usually 3 in a space in 5 by 6 space.
It's pretty small.
And then you got the big elevators in there. So we've removed the elevators, removed the slips from the load path. We've taken one guy out already, and we're working on getting the second out. The operator's remote. We can actually put that guy in an air-conditioned cabin like a coil cabin.
Yep.
You know, so you start this kind of process, and if you set it up right in the beginning, you can end up in a very nice place.
Right.
You know, people in the AC, people in the heat.
Outside of the red zone.
You got a couple of guys running around down low, chasing pipe and loading pipe. But outside, and so then you just continue to let it grow, and it'll get to where it needs to get to.
It's about elevating the roles, because like the comment you made earlier about the perception in the industry is that, oh, we're going to automate this and we're going to remove people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that really is what happens, right? You may not need a person that's sitting there hitting a hammer all day long, but now that person can do preventative maintenance and repair, or they can focus on a higher level stuff. And there's a great thing, a TED talk. I can't remember who does it, but it's about automation, and it kind of goes into the original automatic tellers at the banks. And everyone thought that, there's going to be no more banks. And what ended up happening was the ATMs ended up taking all of the mundane, boring stuff away, and the banks made more money, and they opened up more
They
banks, and they
services and loans and mortgages.
And so I'm a little bit more of an optimist around this stuff. I do think that certain roles will go away, but it opens up room for additional roles in the space.
And you turn that, it's just a poor analogy, but you turn that operator's position into a gaming position. Mm-hmm. They've got the world's best computer. They've got all the controls, and the workforce today can go in there and they can do that.
Yep.
And they can do it very effective, very efficiently. And so let's use what we got, because that's what we have as a workforce. So we're trying to get things moved towards the workforce that we have, because otherwise we're going to be done.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, on one hand, you have the industry bitching about why doesn't anyone want to come work here? And it's like, have you worked on a workover rig?
Exactly.
It sucks. Like, why would I want to come work here? Right?
And then if you get 6 months of workover experience, guess where you're going? You're going to the drilling rigs, because they're a whole lot better to work on, and they got a lot more stability, things picking up and swinging, and you don't have stability. If you can get, and so you're going to move up that ladder. You're going to move up the given ladder that you have to climb up.
Yep.
And so we've got to do something to make this low. I'll call it the lower end of the industry. We got to make that appealing to the workers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it makes so much sense, right? Like meet people where they're at. Instead of forcing them into using 70-year-old technology.
Exactly.
Right?
Well,
it's not going to happen.
And like you talked about before, I mean, the story I've been told is that, you get these big sexy budgets in the drilling side, and you get these budgets in the frack and the completion side, and then you're a production engineer, and they're like, go stay in the corner, don't spend any money, pump all the oil out of the well.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just,
in fact, spend less money.
Right.
Yes.
Like, it's costing you too much.
Drive those prices down as much as possible. So like I guess the other part about the injector that might be interesting to point out is maybe a little bit about the background, because we went into this not thinking about this niche at all. We went into it because we had completed an offshore continuous tripping machine design for a company down here in Houston. And Harold, our VP of engineering, he wanted to figure out a way to apply that to land-based world. Because again, our background's a lot of drilling. And so we started introducing that to many people. And then Ron and Dave from our company were doing a lot of market research. And as they presented this to the operators on continuous tripping for drilling, the operators were like, hey, wait, if this can pull and this can push, this can complete, and this can replace coil, and this can replace snubbing, and this. So then we started focusing in heavily on the completion side. And obviously not obviously, but the rates or the day rates for that part of the industry are there. Like they could absorb the development of this kind of technology or application. But what we've seen over the last year or two is that the push has been actually much further down our development roadmap, which is the well servicing side.
Yeah.
Right. About removing those people and whatnot. So we're working on that with an operator right now in the Bakken, and there will be the first field deployment of the big unit fully hands-free work floor, all the things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, later sometime like in the next few months here, it'll be.
Are these augmenting existing rigs, or is this a new platform?
So the first deployment will have an existing rig beside it, mainly because of some of the pipe handling stuff that we've dealt with. We've already got structure and componentry that exists for that. But there is a phased approach, and the later phases is a completely new platform that doesn't exist.
Wrapped around the injector. Wrapped around the JPI.
And we went down a variety of different paths with this. And like from a specmanship perspective, and I don't profess to know the exact history of where the snubbing jack came from with a 300,000 pound hook load, like the 285s and stuff in the Northeast. But it seems like a lot of specmanship based on what exists already. So you got a 300,000 pound workover rig that's doing these completions. Now you need the jack doing that, and maybe that's the right size. Maybe it's not. But what we did was we went down the path of actually developing an injector that was 300,000 pounds hook load and 170,000 pounds of push. But we still question whether or not that's actually a product that will go to market, because it may offshore, it may be needed offshore, but we think that we believe that you use the right tool for the right job.
Don't need
so
a
there
Ferrari
might be so there might be an optimization where the injectors that go out to the field are really 150,000 pound hoisting capacity, 75,000 snub, but then they have a new design up above them that isn't what we've got in the market today, but still has the capacity to bring that system to 300,000 pounds if needed.
I was gonna say it's a lot easier to go down in load than just to try and design up. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what kind of, on the, whenever I hear automation, I always think that, okay, so now we've digitized typically something that was not digitized before. What kind of instrumentation and stuff does this bring? And kind of to your point, those, and also things that come from that.
Well, it's simple. It brings the same technology that the AC drilling rigs are operating today. Same basic package.
Yeah.
So what kind of specs am I able to, like, what kind of information? And I'm a data guy, right? So let's nerd out on data for a minute.
Let's get like a little bit of the value proposition, which kind of explains it. It helps explain what you're asking. I would tend to agree that automation tends to have some digital component to it. If you look at the market today, this is just what I see from, you had workover rigs and you had rig assist snubbing jacks, and then we went to coil heavy. And then coil wasn't able. So now we're going backwards in the industry. So we're going back to equipment that doesn't have may have data acquisition systems. We've done some snubbing data acquisition systems.
I was going to say on snubbing units.
On snubbing units.
Workovers are very lacking.
And then workovers. Yeah, you're right. Both being very manual operations. When you compare the injector just from a pure mechanical perspective to what snubbing does, there's a reduction of around 97% of operator input.
Wow.
So a huge amount of automation removed. So we're talking, and I tend to default to speed, and I get called out online because people are like, BS and all this, but it's not that we're moving into the well any faster than a typical jack. We're just not going backwards half the time.
Right.
So instead of doing...
you're not tripping in
and
and
out.
We're going one direction for the whole length of the joint. So we're running the joint in 14 seconds or less, right? And then there's the connection time, but there's automation that happens after that.
I'm very interested in some of that, because essentially what you guys have is injection for sucker rods all the way up to tubing. Is that
so? There's so there's.
This is what I took from some of the stuff on the site, and I very briefly looked at it. So maybe I.
So we do have another product line that's around. We purchased that to add to the company in 2015 when everything sort of created, to kind of diversify outside of just the drilling side, and that was continuous rod running equipment. Yeah. So similar to coil tubing, it's However, there are some differences.
Right.
Coiled tubing, you yield onto the reel. Coiled rod, you cannot yield.
Yeah.
So the reels are really, really large. You'll sometimes see them running on an angle down the road on these very large reels. But you're right. That does provide a tremendous amount of automation to a service.
I've been out on a well where they're pulling rods, and I'm like, man, this looks like this sucks.
Well, yeah, and so that's a good segue actually into sort of the CD Tong and the safety and the automation, not automation, but the safety part that comes in with that. So the continuous rod running equipment tends to be in heavy oil applications and whatnot. Now there's a bunch going on down here right now, but if you do have some logistics challenges because you have a certain capacity on a reel and a certain capacity on a trailer.
Similar
you have to weld
similar
that.
to coil, right, where you got to.
Yeah. So, but that does lead to automation from running every single connection.
Yeah.
You know, it removes personnel from the work floor for sure.
Yeah.
There are other benefits when you're running continuous sucker rod. You don't have connections
There's no
that
connection.
are not only prone to failure, but
rusty,
but limiting the flow and then you're point loading on the tubing, and so there's inherent benefits in continuous rod, but what we've done, and actually out of the automation of the workover rigs work that we've done, we patented something called a circumferential displacement tong. I don't think anyone in our business ever wanted to know as much as we know about sucker rods, but we're bored,
so we pick
up to learn all this stuff. We were surprised because again, we're from the drilling side, and we understand that many connections in the rigs are torque based.
Right.
But every single sucker rod manufacturer requires circumferential displacement, which if you've been on there, you got a little card and two lines, and you're supposed to card every maybe the first couple, and then every 10th connection. And then there's these thoughts where you adjust the hydraulic relief valve on the tong for every 5 degrees of temperature increase on the hydraulic oil. And because it all affects to where they think CD is going to be. And so what we developed was...
I find it hard to believe that every workover hand is doing that on any of these jobs.
It's not happening.
But it's in the procedure, I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree. So we developed... So because an existing sucker rod tong has a large displacement hydraulic motor that estimates circumferential displacement based on speed and torque.
Okay.
And, you know, I remember sitting in the mechanical engineer's office at the time, Andrew Bannister, he's BSing about, we'd always talked about a rack and pinion getting involved in a connection, whether it was on a rig or whatever. And we were talking about all this for a long time, and it ended up coming to fruition with this product. So basically what we did was we split it into two actuators. So we've got a high speed, low torque motor that stalls at shoulder, and then we move to a mechanical displacement. So we can just go to CD every single time. And so to Ron's point in a meeting we were having yesterday is that by reducing or increasing the mean time between failures, or reducing the overall failures related to connections, you increase safety because you're lowering your frequency.
Right.
And along with that platform.
Just well intervention. Like no one wants well intervention.
No.
Especially the production engineers that we're talking about, right? Like that's their worst nightmare.
I mean, it's money, right?
Yeah.
If those rods are going up down, they're putting money in the bank. So before I got in the oil field, I had 2 years. I interned for a manufacturing company. Ironically enough, we were manufacturing wind turbines. But during that process, I learned all about lean manufacturing and 5S and Six Sigma and all these things. And then I get out into the oil field. I'm like, boy, is there a lot of opportunity here. Because it's true though. It's like we look at all these things and people, I mean, I sold $350 a day rentals to completion guys who would push back on the pricing on them. And it's like, what are y'all doing? Or like how messed up is our thought process in this industry at times, where it's like, they're so worried about the big stuff, but compounding little things that shut down production or shut down the frac or shut down the drilling rig have just as much impact than you spending another $100 a day on something else or whatever it may be. But that's where it's like, that's where this friction of technology and like the operators start coming in, where it's like, hey, we can provide you
real-time streaming of all of this data so that you can be aware of it and we can be safer, but it's going to cost money because it costs us money.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want,
No, and they also don't want Big Brother on location.
Yeah.
And that's another fear you have to overcome with all this data.
Yep.
And so data's great, but you can't use it to hit somebody over the head with it.
Well, that's the thing. It should be used for improvement.
Growth and improvement.
You can't improve what you're not monitoring.
Yeah.
There was a system out there by one well servicing company. Every rig had one, we think, but switch never got turned on. Never.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want Big Brother watching them make up connections wrong.
Right.
And they didn't care. And so this CD Tong, we got data. We can see every connection. We can see the pressure. We can see the torque. We can see the CD. We can see it all.
What a novel concept to just let it automatically do it every time instead of putting the responsibility on the guy who's been working for a month weeks straight,
or 2 just got here.
Right.
And you're running the tongs today because there's nobody else here to do it.
Right. Yeah. Because Bubba didn't show up.
And so now we're telling the guys, you need to run this like a casing running service. You got a guy, a truck, and our unit, hydraulic power pack through the tongs, and he's casing running.
Yeah.
And he's in charge of making up the sucker rods, and he's in charge of getting the report to the desk of the engineer who needs to look at it.
Right.
Then when there's a failure, we can go back and we can say, that joint failed. Why? And the next thing, when we pull them out, we're breaking them. We can see the pressure from previous jobs. We can tell if they're torqued properly, if they're over torqued, they're under torqued. We can give you all that data. We got a company that we're working very closely with in North Dakota. They say we were going to this particular set of wells every 90 days for rod failure. Said we hadn't been there in 2.5 years.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly my point, right? Is it's like, if you focus on the little stuff that compounds upward.
Absolutely.
Because that's the scale of the oil field, I think, is hard for a lot of people to understand too, is it's like you have thousands of wells if you're a major operator. So having rod failures every 90 days versus every 2 years on thousands of wells
is huge number.
Probably millions of dollars a year.
Huge, certainly.
So it's just like people overlook, I feel like, those small optimizations because they're trying to find the big thing, right? But it's like compounding improvements, especially around risk and safety, like long-term liability or reliability.
So I don't know if we want to talk numbers, but you can edit this out if you so choose. But it's $140,000 full package.
Mm-hmm.
So for $140,000, you can make millions.
Yeah.
Well, and for that number, it's not just the Tong. It's
data acquisition.
It's data acquisition. It's an HPU.
It's the Tong.
There are some. So it's kind of get into a little bit of the detail around that. One of the issues, is that you have 2 connections on every rod, sucker rod, but you got a coupling in between. So these 2 connections are rod flat to rod flat. And so, and what you're doing is you're setting a CD is based on some number of 30 seconds of an inch. So whatever the rod manufacturer says. So if you put in, it's 930 seconds for this connection, but you're going to do a double connection, then theoretically you would put in 1830 seconds and you would make that connection up. But you're not 100% sure that you haven't got 19 on one side and 17 on another, whatever it is, right? So these people we're working with in North Dakota, they're actually looking at this holistic solution where they do rod prep in plant, where they take the coupling and they CD it in plant with our backup. So you're isolating that connection.
Right.
And then you do it in the field again. So, and then that reporting and that data acquisition system merges that data. And now you have a complete connection list for that rig,
That's
for that
awesome.
well.
Yeah.
All right. And so one of the other
really cool
numbers, one of the other numbers to talk about that, Ron, is that, during COVID, we had a client a new client. Never met these guys from Southeast Saskatchewan. So we're out in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, and we get this phone call from this guy from Southeast Saskatchewan. He's, let me get a quote for one of your tongs. Send him the quote. A week later, I get a PO. Never met these guys. Now, these tongs are more expensive than a standard set of tongs, especially if you're buying a set of Chinese Tita tongs or something for like $4,000. I mean, you're not going to get down to that level unless we're building thousands. But
you're not going to get down to
no,
that.
it's a hope and a dream. But we we all of a sudden 2 weeks later we get another PO for a set of tongs, and we're like, this is weird. So these 2 tongs are out there and they're running. About a year later, we get another order for 2 tongs. These guys have 4 tongs. About 6 months ago, Mike Etienne, our sales and business development manager up in Alberta, and I drove through North Dakota, and we run up past this guy's shop, Innovative Artificial Lift. We never met them. And they're like, yeah, we got these 4 tongs. Oil companies telling us we saved them $2 million already. And they've done 565 jobs. So you're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Could we get some more of this data from you guys?
Right.
But they don't have the data acquisition system. They're just doing rod flat to rod flat. And they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Right. So we're seeing a lot of benefits there, and we're starting to see the tidal wave of that.
Yeah.
And we're right at the front end of the tidal wave of the injectors as well. So we're seeing all this positive push in these areas of optimization and automation.
The CD tongs are in Australia, so we've made it to Australia.
That's awesome.
With CD tongs for a major operator there.
Chuck just got back from Australia with
we could have sent some spare parts with him. If you let us know when he goes down, we'll hand carry some stuff down.
And I guess circling back to your initial question on some of the other automation questions about the injector, the mechanics of the machine reducing operator input by 97% is huge, but the other equipment that is enabled around the machine ends up contributing a ton to that. So this is like Ron said, a lot more like an AC drilling rig. You're running it with a joystick.
Right.
You're
the rods are coming up.
Yeah. And
your pipes all coming up. Yeah.
In our concepts, what we would probably do is because the injector has an instantaneous speed of 7,200 feet per hour. So you're going incredibly fast, 2 feet per second, a 30 foot joint's taking 15 seconds to go into the well. And then
if you so choose,
yeah. And we could go faster. There's like the actual drive motors are running at like 26 RPM. Like they're going to run forever. So the other equipment that sits around it that gets us excited are things like, when you're going into a pressurized wellbore right now, if the 3 of us are sitting on a snubbing jack and we're looking at that coupling going through the jack, the operator's making mental math to know where that coupling is in the BOP stack, but we know where it is because we have coupling sensors on the top and bottom. So now we can maybe walk before we run, but we can automate the stripping process.
We can show them visuals. We can show them where that coupling is.
The sort of a digital twin of
Right.
what you're seeing on running through the machine. And then when you're coming back out, again, the same thing. You don't have to adjust your tong height or anything. You can bring the coupling straight to the tong. If it's closed face tong, then you're just closing and breaking your connection. And then our thought is that we'll end up with a conveyor catwalk.
Right.
So instead of a standard skate catwalk that has to reset every time, you're only moving the 30 feet.
Yeah.
Right. And that will speed up that whole process immensely.
Now this is really cool because this is just like a giant process automation on the work, like basically well intervention, right? Like there's so many, to your point, components that are individually they don't seem like a lot, right? Like making up a joint or whatever. But again, the scale of the oil field where you're doing thousands of joints and over thousands of wells. And it's like, and then, just moving the pipe. Finally, our industry, probably the last, 5-ish years, finally started focusing on like field level KPIs and optimizations and efficiencies. And it's like, gosh, this is, finally we're doing that. And so it's neat. It's nice to see people implementing technology that are that's actually, improving those things.
The PTI, the little guy we're running in DJ Basin, it's about 40 seconds a joint, and that's based on the catwalk, standard off the shelf catwalk. And so, but 40 seconds is still pretty good.
Right.
With a connection and that's the
with
whole
a manual connection, and people making it up and scratching their heads and thinking. And so we've actually been side by side, same pad, standard rig assist versus our PTI, and they lose every time.
What's the like typical, how long would it normally take to make up that sound joint?
You're probably,
it's a minute, 10 minute, 15.
1.5, 1.5 times what we're doing.
So
but the deal is, the guy over there is making like 10 or 11 movements, and the guy on the PTI, he's just got his right hand on the throttle.
But the funny thing is, when our guys did the first job, first commissioning with the crew doing it in the field, the snubbing operator was like, I don't know what to do with my left hand, because they're running like this all the time, and this guy's just going in, stop,
or out, stop.
And then so it becomes it's been a pretty exciting process, and
just
seeing
to watch.
But let's just round math. That's a 50% improvement, right? And so it's again, it's like, whatever, however many seconds that is, 30, 40 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but 30, 40 seconds, if you're the guy that's doing it all day, every day, is so much that gets you a more day. But if you're doing stage bonuses, or, if your contract is based off length, right, or any of those things, like that gets you money faster too.
That allows for that, right?
Yeah.
It allows for the operating companies, the guys who aren't making any money, it allows them to go in and say, hey, we'll do this job for, X dollar rather than by the hour. And so then that becomes appealing to the operators. Like, I got a guaranteed price.
Right.
I've been paying X, and now I can pay a little bit less than X, but he's going to do it in half the time. So
exactly,
And
everybody wins.
then he can do 2 jobs or 3 jobs a
Exactly.
day.
Right.
If he's got people.
Yeah, if he's got people. Yeah.
That can do that. They're not tapping out their hours. But it opens up a lot of dynamics that people are if nothing else, they can go get some more rest. They get more rest between jobs. So there's all these benefits that just kind of pile on.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So is everything, do y'all have like a full, let's get into the SCADA IoT stuff. Is it, you have like a full, like RTU kind of SCADA setup basically on site for the controls and all that stuff?
Well, not from so the answer is yes. But we would never control anything remotely, because we're dealing with a Wellbore. We rely on the operator locally to do that. Our industrial computer platforms, everything's built on there, and it's equivalent to your edge appliance, right?
I was gonna say, so it's basically all operating self-contained at the edge, or on location.
So all of our systems are built. I used to be in the automation and software space, but I don't even know or needs to know. I had 2 goals, John, in life. One was not to fill out a timesheet, and the other one was not to know enough to get called at 2 a.m. I'm slowly getting there on the second one, but so the industrial platforms that we've got, the guys, their PCs that we've got, the guys have all the local control, but then they're running. The MQTT broker stuff, and they're buffering all their data and whatnot, and then they can send packets out and do all that. So we're continuing to develop all of that, but we're really agnostic to where we send the data. We would rather, like I said before we started here, like, we're very, very good at the local control. We're very good at the data collection and aggregating the data and bringing it to the edge of our machine and going, where do you want it? You want it on your server, on the oil company server, on somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
We'll help with getting it there. Maybe that's the wrong decision, but
that was exactly when I was in product development, that was the exact same decision that I thought made the most sense as a hardware service company.
Yeah.
Why are we dabbling in why should we dabble in the software space? We know nothing about that. But what we do know is field instrumentation and data transmission. So let's hyper focus on that. And then, even that's not that long ago, but even back then it was a seemingly radical idea to be like, hey, we'll push the data wherever you want it to go.
Yeah.
Because back then everybody was either, we either don't have the data or we'll only push it into our proprietary software as long as it's acquired by our proprietary hardware kind of setup. And so I'm glad to see more people in the industry, just having this like, hey, this is the operator's data at the end of the day. They own it. It's not ours. So tell me where you want to put it. If you want me to send it to you and another service provider so that they know where we're at, so that when, if they're up next in line, they know when to be able to mob and have their people ready. Great. Like there's all these additional, again, optimization things that come from just sharing data. It's such a novel concept.
Well, you were at a talk a couple of years ago with a pharmaceutical guy, weren't you?
Oh, I don't even know
where he was where he got up and spoke in front of the oil companies, and he was giving them all crap for not sharing data because in the pharmaceutical world, they collect so much data and they share it amongst the industry for the betterment of everybody.
Like every other industry.
I'm not making them out to be evangelical. I'm just saying
no, but if they're doing it, we sure as hell should be doing it, and we're not. And it's kind of crazy. Yeah. No, and that's the other thing is like the evolution of this is like a lot of people got into hardware as a means to an end to feed their software, right? Like they didn't want to be hardware companies, but there wasn't anything out there to acquire the data to be able to get it into their software. So they started on that front. And so it's one of those things where it's like, no, let the software companies do the software because they're really good at it. Yeah. But they also don't want to be field service or hardware guys in most cases, right? Like,
and just from a clarification standpoint, like our guys are incredible at the local control software stuff. Like they're doing real time MATLAB Simulink crazy stuff on our controllers. But when it comes to that,
the field web app,
like
SaaS.
There's so many out of the box things, and on our snubbing data acquisition system, for example, we've got this backbone of our what we call our rapid DAC or whatever. We're horrible. We just all horrible acronyms, but it's
you're in good company in the oil fields.
Yeah,
it's okay.
so it's the backbone of that system basically comes with a light version of Ignition Edge or whatever, right? So, we get the question, well, how much is it going to cost us a month to be able to bring this to our cell phones? It's like the app's already developed. Right, it's out of the box. You just we're just going to secure it, make sure that you can log in, and then we'll help you if you want to develop something or customize it. But there's no point in
wasting your money on that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. Like that's one of the reasons I came up with that conclusion originally. And I think most people should at least consider this is that every operator has Power BI, they've got Spotfire, they have data historians, they have all these visualization tools. Yeah. And a lot of the time they want to do the formulation or the formulas or the calculations their specific way, or at least have some kind of control over that. So it's like, instead of me forcing them into what I think they want in a software platform, I'll just give them the data and they know how to use Spotfire way better than any of us do. So let them build their own dashboards because that's what a lot of them are doing.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I think that's the right play. Hopefully more and more partnerships keep coming up on the industry as far as the data sharing and
I think they do. I think they share more than we know about.
Yeah. Well, even with the service companies though, too, right? Like operators finally forcing service companies to say, no, you're both working for me on the same pad. So you're both going to share data together because you need to know what Wireline is doing. And Wireline needs to know what Frac is doing and pump down and water transfer and everybody, there's
when I talked a couple of years ago, actually my first trip after COVID was I was down here from Calgary and I reached out to Colin and and Jake, and I ended up doing a talk with them, or a podcast with them. And what you're talking about sort of brings me back to something that I thought would already be here, because that was sort of the height of the NFT kind of world, and that everything blockchain coming on hard. And I still sort of feel in my head that there's got to be a way that you mint an NFT for a Wellbore with a 3D profile, and every data set gets attached to that record.
Yeah.
And then when Conoco wants to sell that well to Devon,
right,
that NFT goes along and it's got everything that ever came along. And maybe this is just
that's why they don't do
a pipe dream.
That's why they don't do it, so they can sell it to Devon.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. Again, I'm an optimist, so
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like you'd be kind of minting everything they try and cram into WellView, basically.
Yeah,
right? But then all those software companies be raising hell about getting,
There's probably
that's
something out there that's already like that they do. So I'm just not on that end. So
no, they're still very tight vested with their data, which, as most of them should be. But when it comes to field operational data, sharing that across service companies, which are all under the same contracts and same legal terms and conditions. So it really doesn't matter that it's somebody else's data, because at the end of the day, it's actually the operator's data. And so they're the ones who can tell people who to share it with and
whatever,
all that. But it's like, I mean, that's the thing people don't realize is it's like, all oilfield operations are literally bringing a manufacturing process to the worst, most remote environments that you possibly can do it in. And then 2 weeks later, moving it to another one. Right. And so it's like, because of that, there are so many service companies just in general involved. And then when we don't share data or information with each other, it makes everyone less efficient, because everyone doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
And so, no, I'm just, even with y'all stuff, right? Like, just having digitized equipment is foundationally set you up way better for the long term, as people do want to do more things or come up with new algorithms or models or whatever that they want to put or use for this type of stuff. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier if all this stuff's already digital than if you have to go back and
well, it's certainly an upgrade from 4 cylinders and a set of slips,
Yeah.
And so it's just incredible how that snubbing industry has not moved an inch.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's gotten the well servicing side, because I was trying to do some like research when I was doing I basically built a business model when I was doing product development about the new products. And, for a while, the EIA tracked workovers in the US. And then in like the mid 2000s, they just stopped.
They gave up.
And then it's like, oh, well, shit. There is literally no workover rig data as far as like how many there are, where they are located, how like the different types, or like what sizes or manufacture. There's nothing. It's such a weird,
unless you're paying Spears and Associates or somebody like that, right?
Right.
Like,
but even at Spears, they're guessing at best,
right.
and they
It's all
certainly don't
estimates.
get down to day-to-day, well to well, because some of those guys are on several wells a day.
Yep.
A couple wells is easy, and you just can't you physically can't keep up with it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And now you're on pads. They got 10, 20 wells, and you're on this well or you're on that well. Even if you could GPS them, you don't know where they're at.
No.
Yeah.
It's just wow.
I think back to your point from the beginning there about like replacing all the equipment in the industry, and that we need some sort of step. I think we've had this thing going for a long time where we've one of the guys that brought me into the industry actually used to have this saying that everyone the end goal is to have a guy and a dog, and the guy's there to feed the dog, and the dog's there to make sure he doesn't touch anything. And it's sort of like that's where we think we're already going to,
right?
But we're
we're
decades away from something like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I said, I think people inherently thought that AI and robotics were going to replace like the bluest collar jobs.
Yeah.
But those are the hardest jobs, in my opinion, to try and replace with a robot. Parts of them, like processes.
It's going to elevate the job.
Exactly.
It's going to make us look for technicians rather than, roughnecks, for lack of a better term. And so it's kind of like when I was roughnecking, the Halliburton hand, the two-hand Halliburton, he was like God working on the rig. This guy was older and had his own stuff, and he didn't touch nothing. He said, "Hey, put this on there, and hey, put that on there." But that's the guy we all wanted to be.
Right.
And that's the guy we still need to be. We don't need to be hammering connections, and we don't need to be picking up stuff. And I was the biggest guy on the rig, and then I had a muscle man right beside me, and they just send us to get whatever.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything on the rig we couldn't bring back together, it didn't matter what it was. So we need to get out of that.
Yeah.
We don't have those guys available to us anymore, and we just have to go this direction.
Yeah.
We have to.
Well, I mean, shit, I don't think people realize how heavy a lot of the stuff that we deal with in the oil field, even just like chicksons and, joints for ground iron, like 3-4 inch iron is heavy.
Yeah.
Get you a 20-pound hammer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was on this job. It was an ARCO job. This is a war story we can edit out. But
anyway. I love war stories. Let me hear it.
So this company man, old guy, old ARCO company man, and they'd sent these rental BOPs out, and they had used torque wrenches to tighten the bonnet bolts. And we needed to change the rams, and we couldn't get the bonnet bolts to break. So there I was, the biggest guy on the planet, with a 20-pound hammer, and I was rapping on them bonnet bolts, and that little bitty company man's down there watching me. And he's like, "Just quit, just give up. You're done. You're going to kill something." And he got on the phone. I was in his office, and he's like, "We got some big old boys out here, and we got a big old hammer, and we can't break them bolts. What did you idiots in the shop? You torqued them, didn't you?" He's like, "We torque all of our bolts before we send them out." And so there we were in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and we couldn't break bolts with the biggest equipment we had. And it's like,
well, yeah, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. It's like little details really matter when you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. It's not like you can go down to the hardware store and pick up a impact wrench real quick and bring it back.
A big impact wrench.
Yeah.
So we had to wait. We were shut down, but they got a little torque turn machine out there to break those stinking bolts.
When you were offshore?
Yeah.
Right. So it's even like 10 times the cost that it would have been, right? Because he's got to get on a boat or a helicopter.
Not a pickup truck.
Yeah. Well, I think, guys, this has been awesome. We're bumping up on time already. This blew by. I appreciate you guys coming on. Where can people find you guys if they want to reach out and learn more?
On website on automatedrig.com. We've got all our products on there and contact forms on each client product. But for me, it's Andrew R at automatedrig.com. And
Ron T at Automated Complete. No, actnow.com. I don't even know my own email.
Actnow.tech.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Emails and domains are really starting to get fun because of
Ron T at actnow.com.
Perfect.
.tech. Still don't know it. We'll practice that.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, it's all good, guys. I appreciate it, everybody. If you like what we've been doing, please remember to give us a like and go subscribe. We'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it.